Well, good afternoon, and welcome to this important and special time when we get to gather and honor and celebrate the man who meant so much to each of us. This man was Robert Dwain Upton, and I'm very confident that I can speak for everybody in this room in saying that he was one of the good ones, and his presence will be profoundly missed. My name is Miles Macmillan. I'm honored to be here with you this afternoon to celebrate Bob's life. I'm also doubly honored because for my whole life I've been fortunate enough to know Bob Upton as my uncle. Family get-togethers are an interesting thing, aren't they? Anyone who's honest enough to admit it will tell you that they're a mixed bag. There's always that one creepy cousin who comes on just a little too friendly. There's always that one cantankerous auntie who smells kind of funny and you're not sure why. And there's always that one super politically charged in-law who catches you outside the bathroom and forces you to run through your list and plumb the depths of exit strategies for your conversations. We've all been there, right? By the way, these are all fictional characters, of course. My family has none of those people in them. But then there's the other people in the family. If that first set are the ones who make your family, let's just say, colorful, then the next set of people are the ones who make it meaningful. These are the people who make you feel like you're the only thing that matters to them when they speak to you. These are the people who remember your name, your hobbies, your goals, and even that thing that was bothering you 2 months ago when you last spoke to them. And not just because they have a great memory, but mostly because they just care about you that much. These are the people who cause you to listen closely when they speak, not just because they're humble and soft-spoken person, but because you know that you're going to be a better person for having listened to what they had to say. I think you probably know from your own experience with Bob Upton which category he fit into. When I started bringing my wife, Alicia, then my girlfriend at the time, when I started bringing her out to our family gatherings, I was excited, like genuinely excited for her to meet Uncle Bob. It's crazy to think about this now, but we were only like 15 years old at the time. And I'm sure it would have been very easy for him to think of our young love as kind of just this passing thing, right? That would be over soon and not really worth investing much time into getting to know her. But it probably won't come as a surprise to know that the opposite occurred. He spent time getting to know her and invested his time into learning about our relationship, and that always kind of struck me, And this was an investment that he continued to make in both of our lives as individuals and also as a couple over the years, and it left a lasting impression on both of us. And I have a strong suspicion that this wasn't just like an isolated incident with just us. I think it was just who he was with everyone. And I guess that's really what we're here to talk about today, isn't it? It's a painful time in many ways to do something like this, to go through this sacred thing that we do when someone passes. It's painful in some ways, but in other ways it's very good. And it's a good thing for us. Gatherings like this are sacred because they have a way of reminding us of what really matters in life. When someone passes on, you're forced to reflect on what parts of their life really made a difference, what qualities left an impression, what did they strive for that will be truly remembered. And during this time of reflection, we find gratitude in two things. First, in the fact that we knew them, that we got to experience who they were, but also there's this sense of clarity about who we want to be as we carry forward in life without them by our side. And so we're blessed today. We're very blessed because we knew a man who did make a difference. We knew a man who did leave an impression. And we knew a man who set his sights on the things in life that will truly be remembered. And for that, we're we're grateful. You're going to hear a lot about these things today from his family, his friends, his children. And in a world today that seems to be growing increasingly self-focused, you're going to hear about a man who genuinely cared for others and dedicated himself to making their lives better. That counts for something. In the end, I think Uncle Bob's life shows us that love is what matters most. Love is stronger than death because love is what lasts, and it's what we remember far after the sting of death is gone. As we share our memories today, there's no doubt that the grief and sadness will be a part of the natural process that we go through together, and that's okay. In some ways, that's a good thing. But it's also important that we allow ourselves to truly celebrate this man, the man that Bob Upton was. The impressions that he made, the memories that he left behind, they are gifts to us. The family wants to encourage all of us to celebrate Bob's life with them today. And if you feel like clapping or cheering over something that's said about him or a memory that just stands out to you, just please feel free and please feel encouraged to do that because his life is worth celebrating. So at this time, I'm going to hand things over to some of those people who are closest to Bob, and they're going to come up and share with us about his life. And first of all, we're going to start with Ken and Sharon Mulligan. So will you guys please come up?
Good afternoon. We're Ken and Sharon Mulligan, Bob's sister-in-law and brother-in-law. Faye was my sister. I used to say much older sister. I first met Bob when he and Faye started dating. I was probably about 12 because she was 10 years older than I was. He was an only child, and I'm sure meeting all of our family was quite overwhelming. There were 9 children in our family, plus their significant others, mom and dad, cousins, aunts, uncles, etc., etc. But Bob, being the calm, logical man that he was, just took it in stride and joined in. He enjoyed our family gatherings, acting as chauffeur for our mom when she was living in Winnipeg. Bob was a very organized and detailed man. When buying a new car or selecting a new family dog, Bob did extensive research. So much so that Faye had sometimes wondered if they would ever actually get whatever new item they were planning on purchasing. I recall one day at our place, we were all together discussing our next family get-together. We decided we would have a potluck supper. Bob asked, "What's everyone going to bring?" And we all responded, "Well, I don't know, it's potluck. Everyone just brings whatever they want." Bob looked so perplexed. He just couldn't fathom how this was going to work. I think he had visions of 10 potato salads on the dinner table and nothing else to eat. We always had a good laugh about that one. They had a timeshare at Elkhorn Lodge near Clear Lake, and their door was always open to anyone who wanted to join them there. One year, we decided with my sister and brother-in-law, Valengord, and family to surprise them. We rented a cabin in Clear Lake for a few days. We arrived at the cabin, got unpacked, and then showed up on their doorstep. They were definitely surprised, but seemed happy we were there, but I think they were more happy to learn that we had our own accommodations. One weekend, many years ago, Bob and Faye joined my brother Barry and sister-in-law Judy and Valengord camping at St. Malo. It was getting late, and Barry and Judy were getting concerned whether Bob and Faye were going to arrive with their tent trailer, as they were sleeping in it as well. They did finally show up at their usual time, late. Of course, they hadn't eaten yet, and out came Bob, proudly showing off his brand new barbecue tools. Barry decided Bob's new barbecue fork needed to be tempered, so he held it over the campfire for a while, then put it in the dirt to cool off. Needless to say, the fork tines curled up like ribbons on a birthday gift, and that was the end of Bob's new barbecue fork. Barry said the look on Bob's face was one to be remembered. When Bob moved into his recent apartment, he was telling us about different amenities and activities within the building, including a seniors group. Ken asked him if he was going to join the group, and without a moment's hesitation, Bob replied, "No, I'm not old enough to join the seniors group." Unfortunately, with all of us having our own families now, we don't get together as often as we used to. But when we did, Bob was always there, Caesar salad in hand, quietly taking in the conversations around him, listening to everyone's activities since the last time we gathered. He didn't speak much about himself, but always listened to what others had to say. Whenever you asked Bob what he was working on lately, chances are you still didn't really understand when he finished explaining it, as you would get lost in all the details. He was a busy man, giving his time to help others improve their lives. He was an intelligent, caring, spiritual person who will be missed by so many. He left this world as he would have wanted, without much fuss and being a bother to others. Rest in peace, Bob. And my brother Randy sent a message. Most of my memories of Bob was when we met in non-family situations. I remember when Bob was with NCR and I was studying at the university. I used to bump into him at one of the Pembina Highway watering holes, where we spent way too many Friday afternoons when I was with my buddies, and Bob was entertaining clients. Good times. Fast forward 10 or more years. Another memory of Bob was when I was working for May and Baker in the crop protection industry and living back in Winnipeg. Bob and I had arranged to meet for lunch downtown, and we got to talking about what we were each doing. One of the things I was involved with at that time was analysis of market research information that we had purchased regarding the crop protection market. I was bemoaning the complexity of this analysis that I wanted to do, and Bob told me about this wonderful thing called Lotus that could create spreadsheets and calculate totals, averages, trends, etc. I remember how blown away I was by this new tool. Little did I know that Lotus would be supplanted by Excel, and I would spend many years spending countless hours working with Excel spreadsheets and other computer software programs. This reinforced my belief that Bob was very cool and I had a lot to learn from him. I continued to learn at family meetings what new things Bob was into. I tried to get him interested in joining our professional consulting institute. Bob attended some events but never joined, so this showed that I was obviously not as good a salesperson as he was.
Good job, Sharon. So I do things a little different. I just fly off the cuff here. So one thing I always remember with Bob, as you met him, there was that big smile and the hand come out and you shook his hand. And the major topic was always going to be you, not him. He always was careful to ask you what was important in your life. He didn't seem to worry maybe as much as he should have about himself, but I'm sure he took care of himself quite well. But Bob was an excellent speaker. I can remember him having projects that he would work on them for 2 months or better sometimes, and then have to get up and present them. And I can just tell by him telling me about what he was about to do that how good he was at his job. So he had a lot of close friends in his business and whatever. Speaking of business, he worked at NCR, and one day I was over at their place, and he said, let's go and play a football game against this computer at NCR. So away we went, got into the building, and all I can see is metal. And this computer at that time was the size half of this room. And it was really neat. He was very good at what he did, and we had a great time there that afternoon. And yeah, I don't know who won, but I think the computer probably. Bob loved cooking. So I guess he came from a family that had a restaurant, I believe, and he did a lot of cooking there, but he was a good cook. He did it in a sort of a way that it was in a fashion, so you would come to their place at about 4 in the afternoon and probably get a couple cocktails going, and there was a process. The steak was sitting on the counter, and where I came from, the steak had to be well cooked, but it sat on the counter for quite some time, and you talked to it. You put some seasoning on it, and you banged it around a bit, and whatever, and then a few more drinks, and then it was getting closer to why I thought was supper time, but no, the bowl came out, for the Caesar salad. So that was good. At least we were getting somewhere, and the bowl would come out, and then we started making the Caesar salad, and then I believe the next thing, finally the barbecue went on. So that was good, and that would be probably 8 or 9 o'clock. And I really didn't care exactly how this thing was cooked, but I just needed it cooked because I was getting hungry. So away we went, and there was a precise amount of time that this steak had to be on the barbecue that was set at 350 degrees. So that happened. We ate. I've never ate such good steak, and I think the Baldwins all now cook rare steaks because of Bob. We all enjoyed all of Bob's meals. On another occasion, it was actually, we had a New Year's Eve party at our place, and Bob and Faye came over, and family, and we were celebrating, so they stayed over. And he also made scrambled eggs, but they were done individually, so whatever you wanted on them, you ordered it, he made it, but there was about 2 made at a time. So we had quite a few people there that morning, and Sharon had to go to the hospital to have my son. So luckily enough, we were first to eat, and away we went. So it was all good, but yeah, Bob was a fantastic cook. He really spent time at doing it properly. I remember on one occasion going to their place, and he always took care of us. So this one day I was privileged to actually do something for him. So he said, well, do you mind going to the grocery store? So I said, no problem at all. So he hands me a list, and it's all folded up. And so off to the grocery store I go. Didn't open the list till I got there, and I opened the list. And so there's words over here, like it's all over the place. So okay, just what's up with this? So I start down the aisle, and sure enough, on that corner of the list, that's where it is in the aisle. You went a little further down, that's where it is in the aisle. Just think about it. That smart person. The other thing that I think Bob brought from BC was his driving. So Bob always had large cars that I know of anyways, and he would get into it. It was the first time I ever seen anybody wear a seatbelt, but he wore a seatbelt, and I started to after that too. But anyways, he'd plop himself into the seat, and away we went. And he had a purpose. He was trying to get to point A and whatever, and that was fine. He would see a spot in the traffic, and he would get to it, believe me. And as he cut off the person, or whatever you call it, maneuvered around them, he would wave at them. So he really didn't have an enemy. Even the people he was cutting off, they were his friends as well, eh? That was always good. And then on one occasion, we took this large car of his from Matlock to go to Winnipeg Beach on a Sunday, and he was bragging about getting air conditioning in that car, and like none of us had air conditioning, so we were really excited about getting in this car. It was like 90 above, and going to Winnipeg Beach. The air conditioning wasn't working. So by the time we got to Winnipeg Beach, most of us didn't have shirts and whatever on, but we weren't going to open the windows. So, but good for him. I think he soon later got it fixed. I seen a picture up there today. I got to say that we were the Outlaws, Donnie, Gord, me, and Bob. So we were all the Outlaws. So quite often you might have seen that picture. We're sitting at a bar, so that was our best conversations, is sitting at a bar talking. We had great talks, all of us, and I miss that. I think one of the things that on a more serious note, the day that they had an accident, I came to the hospital in Selkirk, and he looked up at me and said, "I want to tell you something." And he said, "This was nobody's fault." He was so worried. I got to say one more thing, and that is that when people pass on their own, and it's kind of sad because you feel they're alone and by themselves, but he wasn't. Faye was with them.
Thank you very much, Ken and Sharon. And up next, we're going to hear from Louis Dumas and Liz Curtis.
Pages. Just kidding. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Louis, and I'm here to say a few words on behalf of my very dear friend, Bob. First of all, thank you all for being here. It means a lot to see so many faces that loved and cared for Bob as much as we did. Personally, I feel very honored that I've been asked to speak and share a few words about someone who meant so much to me. I always felt very close to Bob. From the first time we met at a conference at around 2012, I've always felt safe and secure in his presence, safe to share and say anything that was going on inside of me. And I know from our dialogue that the feeling was mutual. But ask me when we first met if I thought Bob, being considerably older than me, would become one of my nearest and dearest friends, and I would have probably doubted it. But that's exactly what happened. Throughout the years, we became very tight, and I'm just grateful for that. Hearing of his sudden passing, we had just landed in Puerto Vallarta the night before, and so he passed on that day. And I received a text saying, "Call me," instead of text me, and I knew right away something was up. It crushed me, like at first, when it left a huge sadness and void in my heart and soul. But I have discovered yet again that grief is a price we pay for love, and it's still worth it. Bob and I discussed a lot of things, even one of the two basic certainties of life, taxes being one, death being the other. Regarding the latter, when we would discuss how we never know when our time would come or when it's going to happen or how, I remember he looked at me in the eyes with that serious Bob look and said, "I live every day to the best of my ability. I try to stay positive and help where I can, and I'm grateful for every waking moment. And when those moments run out, I know in my heart and soul that I will be okay, and so will you." He had a way of reassuring me, even on something like that. He always had a way with words, and he was as sincere and honest a person as I've ever known. We also shared an interest in something called near-death experiences, and he turned me on to Anita Morjani and her NDE book, Dying to Be Me. I shared my knowledge of Raymond Moody's book, Life After Life, and man, did we have long chats about philosophical discussions on the near-death experience that people go through. And he and I firmly believe that these experiences to be true, so it was one of our favorite topics. Another thing about Bob is he was always willing and wanting to learn. I've never seen a guy soak up so much information. It was awesome, especially when it came to understanding other people. His passion for knowledge and experience was second to none. Through the years, Bob and I suffered a couple mutual losses, and where we shared our tears, sorrow, and grief with each other, not caring one bit about looking weak or not manly enough. That's the thing about Bob, the feeling that it was okay to be authentic and to be ourselves. He was also someone who was about as spiritually connected as anyone I've ever known. In all our convos, I never heard the guy say one bad thing about anyone, ever. And of course, me being less experienced in life and handling resentments, I just couldn't understand it. I would often ask myself, doesn't this guy have a problem with anyone? And of course, we would discuss all this and had quite a few laughs about it. He had a great sense of humor, too, on top of all his other attributes. I remember one day I was thinking that I was Going to share my latest story on my latest recurring resentment and subsequent judgment of someone. And I thought to myself, this time, he is bound to agree with me and partake in the bashing of the other parties involved. You know, I was always looking for an ally. And he listened, and then he smiled, that Bob smile, and said, Lou, what if I told you that everyone is just doing the very best they can? And that was it. I had no rebuttal. You know, it's like, yes, Bob. I shifted from resentment and anger to compassion and tolerance, and I was always in awe of his calmness, spirituality, balance. And of course, this lesson would have to be learned and relearned countless times by me, but I'm still working on it. Progress, not perfection, right? That's just one example of the hope, strength, and experience he shared with me. Also, I'm someone who has a hard time reaching out when things aren't going well, but he was one of the very few people I would reach out to from time to time. He would always make time for me, and the same can be said for all who knew him. He was the epitome of selflessness, caring, and being there for others. He taught me patience, love, and tolerance on another level, and to always think of others, to strive to somehow get out of self. He also taught me the importance of getting out of my comfort zone, that although it may be uncomfortable at first, it'll help me to grow and expand my life and my experiences. I truly admired him, and the real connections he made with others. It was amazing to watch. Never any pretense or acting, no bullshit. He was just real. He would even venture out to take me up on my invites to come and hang out with my family and friends. There was a time he drove out to Winnipeg Beach one time to hang out with us on the beach, and I didn't think he would show, but he did, and we spent a great day, and we barbecued, and it was just another great time with Bob. He's very sociable. Multiple times he came over to our place for Bomber and Jets games, and we would, of course, order Santa Lucia pizza. If anybody knows me on Facebook, I usually post a picture of a pizza every time I order one. And he loved it almost as much as I did. I really miss my friend Bob. I miss his inspirational quotes that he would send me most mornings, and his excitement in his texts he would send while he listened to the Bomber or Jets games on CJOB while I'd be watching from home. I usually post a Go Jets Go on Facebook before a game, and he would say after the game that the Jets sure went. And, you know, I'm really missing that. I'm missing him on this playoff run. We would have had some interesting texts last night. I tried to talk him into getting cable or some way of actually watching a game, but he wouldn't have it. He loved the radio personalities, and that reminded me of when I was a kid and my dad and I would listen to most games on the radio too. Good memories. And you know, even when our teams would come up short, he would still state how we can't win them all and we'll get them next game. Always glass half full. That was Bob. Never gave up on anyone. I never saw it. Always there to support and encourage. I always saw that. In conclusion, I just want to share my sincerest condolences with his dear family, whom he would refer to often with pride and joy, especially his dear granddaughter, Sadie. He would boast of his deep connection with her. You could tell they were kindred spirits. There will never be another grateful Bob, and I'm extremely grateful to have him in my life for the amount of time I did. God bless. Rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you for asking me to speak today. I really appreciate it. How do you put 10 years of knowing someone into a few words? I don't know, but I'll try. Some people make you feel better just by being around them. They're sunshine for your soul and medicine for your mind. If you look around this room today, it's clear our good friend Bob touched many, many hearts and lives. He had the purest heart and kindest soul. You could tell when he entered any room that he was a beacon of light and hope for so many with his words of wisdom and forgiving heart. It's not very often you meet someone who doesn't have a mean bone in their body and have nothing but good things to say about everyone. This was Bob. He seemed almost otherworldly, always willing to help out where he could. When you're truly happy in life, there's no need to be mean or negative. How you treat people is a direct reflection of how life is treating you. Take a look around this room. It's obvious he was a special soul. The one common denominator here today is grateful Bob. Thanks for coming. Bob filled the void for me and my family. Having no family here in Winnipeg, he quickly and acceptingly took on the role of bonus grandpa to my children. He was the voice of reason I craved and needed from a father figure I never had. He accepted me for all my faults and continuously gave me tips and tricks to help solve my problems and find ways to live life to the fullest. Above all, he made me feel loved and assured, made me feel I was strong and resilient even when I didn't feel it. I knew I had someone in my corner always cheering me on. He would remind me that I am the greatest project I would ever work on, and to restart, reset, and refocus as many times as you need. Just don't ever give up. He told me that life gets easier when you stop fighting it. Rain or snow, it'll still fall whether you complain or not. Traffic will exist whether you stress or not. People will act how they want to, whether you worry or not. Focus on what you can change, let go of what you can't. Some things you might not know about Bob and him willing to go to any lengths. On several occasions, he attended Grandparents' Day for my kids. He was our poster boy for our seniors program at my work. He would fill in to help me chair meetings at HSC when another person couldn't show, even though he'd never done one there. He helped me move a few times, carrying box after box. He offered to take the necessary course to officiate our wedding. He came to my kids' grads and concerts, took my son to Goldeyes games and cheered him on at hockey. He came to New Year's celebrations and a Chinese one as well. We had potlucks, brunches, Christmases, birthdays, always offering to bring his specialty as homemade Caesar salad. And check-ins over mocha coffees at Tim's. He took us on ice cream dates, and we celebrated his birthdays with chocolate mint cakes. He never turned down an invite to anything if he could. My son wanted me to share that Bob had a calming personality and always made him feel loved and safe. At hockey games or even just when they saw each other, he always made sure my son left with a smile on his face. Bob always knew some great jokes and had everyone laughing and having a great time. That's a real testament of an amazing man. Don't more than loss, celebrate the life and memories of a wonderful man and a life well lived. Always be kind to others. You never know just how much you might mean to someone. And even if you find yourself in a tough spot, just ask yourself, what would grateful Bob do? Godspeed, Bob.
Thank you so much for sharing those memories from Louis and Liz. We also want to move on now to hearing from Bob's son, Steve, and his daughter, Jen.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's just so, okay, I'm not going to get through this. That's okay. It's just so great to see everyone here, and just a testament to what an amazing man he was. Look at this picture. Handsome devil. He was great. It's actually what I was going to start with, is talking about how people say people can't change, and you saw that through, you know, the speeches already today. My family and the drinks and the aggressive driving and to be the person he is today. So, okay, I'm going to stick to the script and closer? Yep. I feel like I'm going to, okay. He's the AV guy, so I'll listen to him, I guess. Growing up, my dad was very work-focused, always at the barbecue, always with a drink in his hand, always had to be in control, but even then he was open-minded. And he had to be, being my dad. I put him through his paces, very liberal views. He would remind me that his background was not liberal. He came from, very judgmental family with some very not liberal views. But he listened, he changed. Over time, he asked questions, we discussed. He started recycling before recycling was like a thing. I made him do it. He would bring his reusable grocery bag to the store and say, "Oh, my daughter, this is important to her, so I'm bringing it," before anybody was doing that. And he even cooked for Sadie and I. Being celiac and vegetarian, it wasn't always an easy feat. I felt lucky to have my parents. I was always a daddy's girl, that's for sure. And somehow I could do no wrong in his eyes, even though I did a lot of wrong. But they always respected my opinion, and I had a lot of them. They let me go my own way, and even when they didn't agree with me, whether it was a guy that clearly wasn't right for me, of course in my younger days, not Brian, or an extreme fashion choice that they weren't fans of, which I had a few of those as well. They'd hold back at first and then gently let me know their thoughts, and then ultimately let me make my own decision. I know that must have been hard for them. Like, I can't do it as a parent. But I needed to go through that to become the person I am today. So I'm very grateful for that. My mom and dad had a great marriage, and they modeled that for Steve and me. They would talk and laugh and stay up late as mom vented about her job. And my dad, in true dad fashion, would try to solve all her problems, even though that's really not what she wanted, and he knew that, and it's in his bones. When we were cleaning his place, we found a letter that he wrote to his dad talking about getting married to my mom, and that was a really special moment. He talked about, he was 25, so that was really late to get married. And I thought he would never get married, but he needed to wait to find the right person. And that was somebody that he was friends with, first and foremost. And that's what he found in my mom. And he modeled that for us, and that's how we found our partners as well. And they gave us a great life. Growing up in the suburbs of St. Vital, summers at various lakes and cottages and Elkhorn, trips here and there to Disneyland and BC. And then when it all came crashing down in December of 2001, when my mom died, it was incredibly hard. But my dad searched for a better path. He and my brother went to a Youville grief group, which I think was very important to him and led him on a different path. And I think it was through there that he found the Dharma Center. And that was a really important turning point for him. It was through Buddhism that something started to shift in him. He softened, he discovered meditation. He began to understand and heal some of his childhood trauma. He started to find a kind of peace. And we grew even closer as a family. And when he stopped drinking and found what I truly believe was his calling in the recovery community, he fully became the kind and gentle soul that we knew him to be. There's been a lot said already about that part of his life today, and I know Steve will touch on it as well, but I just want to say that from my perspective, recovery gave him his purpose. We've always been a close family. We've had dinner together virtually every Sunday. And every couple of weeks, we would have a DDD. So that's a daddy-daughter date, if you don't know. And you can tell how much I love him because I let him say that. Like, I can't even, it was like, I was so embarrassed whenever I'd say it, and now I'm up here saying it. But he would often tell us how grateful he was to spend all the time that he did with the family. And it was almost like he was doing us a favor. He's grateful, Bob, that's what he did. But I'd always be quick to remind him that we spent that time with him because we loved him. He was great to be around. And if plans didn't work out, he never made us feel bad about it. He just appreciated and soaked up as much time as he had with us. His energy drew people in. He was always there to listen. Mom, he finally figured that out and knew just when to give advice. He was my go-to for work questions. My passion for work and my success that I've had is a lot to do with his influence and guidance. He was always my biggest cheerleader, and I know he was for a lot of you in this firm as well. And he loved being a grandpa, that's for sure. He'd take any chance he could to spend time with Sadie, coming over to hang out with her. He would go to her skating lessons. He would always come over for Halloween, and they would do a few houses together. He just really wanted to be part of her life, and he was. For a girl who could talk your ear off, Grandpa's ear was always there. He was so patient and kind. And every year on his birthday, he would give her a gift. Always a book, of course. The only thing he wanted for his birthday was to give to others. It was the sweetest thing. And that was a real change. From someone who always had to be in control to someone who could be so vulnerable and grateful and open. I'm so grateful that he lived well right up till the end. He was driving, he was in the apartment he loved, he was sharp as ever, just still a great presence in everyone's life. And in a way, I think it's fitting that we didn't get to say goodbye. He lived his life in such a way that we didn't leave things unsaid, and he inspired that in others. He knew how much we loved him and appreciated him. We told him that all the time. And we knew how much he loved us and how proud he was of us. I didn't need to hear it one last time. I heard it all the time. And I just wanted to read a poem that we found when we have been going through his stuff. There's a lot of stuff. He's a collector and loves information. If anybody needs a book on management but it was really, through this, it's a Buddhist bereavement poem, and I found it, and I just thought it was so beautiful, so I wanted to share it today. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I'm not there. I do not sleep. I'm in the thousands of winds that blow. I'm the softly falling snow. I'm the gentle shower of rain. I'm the fields of ripening grain. I'm in the morning hush. I'm in the grateful rush of the beautiful birds in circling flight. I'm the sunshine. I'm the starshine of the night. I'm in the flowers that bloom. I'm in a quiet room. I'm in the birds that sing. I'm in each lovely thing. I do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. Thanks.
So there was this time in October of 2009. I was going on this trip. I had to stop at the Royal Bank on St. Mary's Road. And I'm a Gen Xer, so I use the ATM, but I needed US currency because I was doing a road trip. So I had to go to the teller. And I went to the teller, and when I gave her my client card, she took one look at it, and she goes, "Upton, are you related to Bob Upton?" I said, "Yeah, he's my dad." And she turned to the teller working next to her. She said, Linda, this is Steve Upton. This is Bob's son." Stone cold cut off the transaction she was in the middle of. And she came over and went, "Oh my God, we love your dad. He's such a great guy, and how's he doing?" And I try not to roll my eyes, not because I didn't appreciate it, and not because it wasn't true, but because that was what happened every time somebody made the connection between me and my dad, every time. And when I got back from the trip, we had Sunday dinner, and we're eating ice cream, because we always ate ice cream, and I told him about this interaction that I had with these ladies at the bank, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Barb and Linda, and Barb's husband retired last year, and she's going to retire next year, and they're going to go to Italy, and she can't wait. They've wanted to go since they were kids, and Linda's kid is going to like University of Toronto, and he's going to be an optometrist. And I'm like, Dad, you can't remember the words to Happy Birthday. How do you know all these things about the tellers at the bank, right? But that's how he rolled, right? Like he made this human connection with just everybody. Like if you met my dad, you remembered him because you got the distinct impression that he was going to remember you. And I remember aspiring to that. I aspire to be like that. I want to be like that. And it was a short time later that I was at the Dakota Family Foods at the deli counter, and it's across the street from the apartment block that I lived in, right? So I've been there a lot, and the girl behind the counter was Gordana. She was from Ukraine, and I asked her for food, and she brought it to me. We had a really beautiful thing going. I'm standing there waiting for my chicken leg or whatever I ordered, and I look next to me, and there's my dad just by happenstance, and we're like, oh, hey, and a big hug and everything, and I look back at Gordana, and she's standing there kind of slack-jawed, like, you two know each other? And and we pointed at each other in almost perfect unison. I said, yeah, that's my dad. He says, yeah, that's my son. And she goes, of course you're related. You're my two very favorite customers in the whole place. And I realized that I am like him. I am not nearly as good at remembering people's names or what we talked about last time we talked, but there's a hell of a lot of Bob Upton in here. In December of 2001, as most of you know, we lost my mom, his wife of 28 years, very suddenly and very tragically. And at her wake, I got really drunk, and I stayed that way for the following 7.5 years. And my dad was right there alongside me. I mean, there wasn't a party that Bob Upton was invited to that he didn't show up at, and there wasn't a party that I threw that I didn't invite him to. So, and I mean, he always had a fully stocked liquor cabinet and a fridge full of beer, and he could wax intellectual on any topic you can think of. So I mean, like, he was everything you look for in a drinking buddy, right? Like, but in April of '09, after many years of struggling to control how much I drank or even when, I became a member of the recovery community. And my dad followed my lead. And he got sober too. So from April 2009 on, everything that he did, I take full credit. Thank you for that. If you know anything about recovery, you know that's not really how it works. But it's a tough day, and I need a win, so let's just roll with it, all right? For the last 16 years, 1 hour at a time, we sat often side by side in rooms full of people talking about how to make their lives better by being of service to other people. Everybody should be so lucky to have that. He took to it like a duck to water. He really did. He spent an entire career making businesses and companies bigger and better and stronger and faster, but he worked with individuals. He added to the lives of individuals as a life coach and a mentor and a sponsor, as a committee member, as a family member, and as a friend, and as a customer at the Royal Bank on St. Mary's Road. here's just some pearls of wisdom that I learned from my dad. By example, assess where you are and where it is you want to be. Then make a plan to get from point A to point B. Understand that things will not always go according to plan, but it's good to have a plan. Smiles are free, and whether you're talking to the CEO of a multinational corporation or a homeless drunk, everyone deserves respect. Be well, help out, inspire others. Dad, I love you, and I miss you, and I wish you were here. Thank you all so much for being here.
It's hard to follow that up with anything, but thank you guys. What a beautiful tribute to your dad. I just want to call up now, already beat me to it, but Amanda and Ed, who are going to bring us a song to enjoy together.
I see trees of green, red roses too. I see them bloom for me and you, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. I see skies of blue and clouds of white, the bright blessed day, the dark sacred night, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also in the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see babies cry, I watch them grow. They'll learn much more than I'll ever know, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. The colors of the rainbow, so pretty in the sky, are also on the faces of people going by. I see friends shaking hands, saying, how do you do? They're really saying, I love you. I see babies cry, I watch them wonderful world. Yes, I think to myself, what a wonderful world.
Beautiful. Thank you, Amanda and Ed. I just want to say thank you again to everyone who's come here today to share. Honestly think that this is the best part of a time like this because we really get to see who the person was and how their life mattered, how it made a difference. So on behalf of the family, I'd also just like to thank every single person for being here today. Your support at a time like this, it means so much. And your presence speaks volumes about who Bob was and the impact that his life left in your hearts and minds. And on behalf of everyone here, I would just like to express to Steve and Rachel, Jen and Brian and Sadie, our deepest condolences over the loss of your father and your grandfather. Thank you for letting us be a part of this time with you. And to all of us, I say that while this may be the end of our formalities today, it's certainly not the end of our time of sharing of memories of Bob. I encourage all of us, even as we have some hours here together and then in the days ahead, to share with each other about who he was and how he made a difference in your life. Celebrate his life, especially with each other and especially with his family. Let them know what Bob meant to you. As we share these things, we remember that Bob's life did make an impact, it did make a difference, and in some ways he continues to live on as long as we remember to talk about him together. So please do that. I'm going to bring our time to a close now with a poem by Marion C. Garrity. After that, the family would love for all of you to stay and join them for some ice cream. Don't all rush at once. Ice cream was one of Bob's favorites, and so it was fitting to share that today. Please stick around and continue during this time to share and celebrate the life of Robert Dwain Upton. And as you share and enjoy your ice cream, please also enjoy the slideshow. It's already been going before, but please continue enjoying that, the pictures that the families put together. I'll close this off now with the words from the poem entitled A Life Well Lived. I took the liberty of personalizing the last stanza of it. A life well lived is a precious gift of hope and strength and grace from someone who has made our world a brighter, better place. It's filled with moments sweet and rare, with smiles and sometimes tears, with friendships formed and good times shared, and love that spans the years. And as we celebrate a life that touched so many here, may his memories comfort each of us and keep Bob Upton near. Again, thank you on behalf of the family for being here today to show your love and support. Please enjoy the reception and share some memories.